Okay, we'll call this April meeting of the Muskego Parks and Conservation Committee to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wendy, you want to call the roll, please?
Alderman Kapusta. Toby Whipple.
Here.
Terry Boyer. Here. Matthew Bugman. Barbara Erdman. Bill Miller. Here. Barbara Schrader.
Okay, this meeting was posted in accordance with the state open meeting laws. Next item is approval of the minutes from the December 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. New business. How you pronounce this? Rin?
Rin.
Rin? The H is silent. Rin rustic structure request. Adam, you want to tell us about this?
Thank you. So this request today is for the determination of some buildings on the Rin Farm for rustic structure designation. Can I give you a little bit of a background? The city approved, it was prior to 2002 at least, a while ago, rustic structure designation ordinance. And basically what that is, it's a part of the zoning code that is meant to kind of preserve certain unique, high character level kind of barns in the city, knowing that that's kind of a unique part of our rural character. That's one thing that we've learned in a lot of our different, surveys and things the city's done over time is, kind of keeping a mix of the development that's going to happen with the rural character and, preserving old barns that have a lot of good character to them are a good example and a good way to do that, kind of a monument to the past, if you want to think of it that way. So the ordinance was set up that these barns can be allowed and the reason you would ask for this is in a scenario of someone doing like a land split or something like that, where, a smaller lot means smaller outbuildings. And in this case of this request, Mr. Rin did a land division, and as such, his lot was made smaller, meaning that the buildings that are left, he did have enough land for before he did his split, but now he does his split, the lot that's left is too small for the amount of outbuildings he has remaining. So in this scenario, Mr. Rin is asking for, we'll kind of call it two of the buildings. The way the buildings are set up on this property, and in your packet's a map of what's kind of going on out there. There's a large, like L-shaped kind of barn that has a smaller kind of barn to the south of it that are attached on the corners. And then there's two silos, and then each of the silos are attached via connected covered area. Those tally about 8,223 square feet. We kind of call those the main barn. So that's one of the kind of structure, or you can call it combination of buildings that they're looking at designating a rustic structure. And the other building is the building that's kind of would be northeast of that large barn. We listed on here as the garage, or it's also called the greenhouse in the submiddle. That's 656 square feet. There also is an eastern barn, which I think on the drawing up there is kind of the green, the right side barn. That's about just under 3,800 square feet, and then a smaller shed that's 319 square feet. So right now, all these buildings together tally just under 13,000 square feet. And based upon the size of the lot that was left for Mr. Rin after he did his land split, which is about 4.8 acres, he only should be allowed just under 4,200 square feet for outbuilding, which is based upon 2% of the lot size that's remaining. So when Mr. Rin was doing his land split, we brought this up to him as a concern, so he was aware of it. And there's really two options on how he could proceed here, which this is the one option he chose. One option was to apply for rustic structure designation. If this designation is granted, that means that he doesn't have to count them towards his size limit. It's kind of a freebie. And like I said, the city did this to encourage that people don't just rip down, nice quality historic level barns all the time. There are many that still go for one reason or another, but to preserve some of them on a case-by-case basis. So in this scenario, the barns he wants to keep are just under 8,800 square feet over the limit. So like I said, he's allowed about 4,200-ish, and he's looking to be over that by about 8,800. As part of that, the code basically designates the process for someone to request a rustic structure approval. And that first step basically says that it has to come to Park and Conservation Committee, and they should kind of give a recommendation to the Plan Commission as to if they feel that, you know, either all of the requested buildings or some of the requested buildings, whatever they feel fit, should or should not be granted a rustic structure designation. After this step, the next step we'll do is we'll schedule a public hearing because he needs a conditional use grant in front of the Plan Commission, and the Plan Commission would make the final call based upon your recommendation and based upon the outcome of any conversation that would happen at that public hearing. Basically what the code says, and it defines a rustic structure. So that's the kind of the board's job here, is to give a recommendation. The committee is to kind of basically say, do they feel that this barn meets this criteria? And then if so, are they okay with the quantity and size? And it states, any permanent accessory structure or building which is distinctly set apart and unique from other structures and buildings due to its construction technique, materials, age, local historic significance or design, and character of past agricultural practices or rural life, whether presently utilized or not for the agricultural practice, and which is structurally safe at the time the conditional use is applied for and during the duration of the conditional use that's allowed. Another thing that kind of then that the code goes further into is it basically says, you know, we have to make sure that definition is met. And like I said, is it right based upon what they're asking for? The applicant did submit in the packet that's in front of you tonight, kind of their reasoning and a lot of the history behind it. So if there's any questions, the applicant, I'm sure, will be able to address that for you. There's photos in the packet they also provided to kind of show you what's going on out there. Another step that we'll take after this too is because that definition criteria talks about, you know, in good condition basically, or, you know, safe condition, our inspectors will have to go through all the buildings that are in question for rustic structure so they can provide a formal report to the Plan Commission before we would do that. And then, yeah, the biggest thing we kind of wanted to mention is I kind of wanted to just provide kind of some facts. So since this ordinance has been in play, the city's approved 3 properties to have rustic structures, one in 2002, 2005, and 2010. Most of these were for a single building, and one of them is for 2 buildings, a smaller barn and a real small shed, but most of them were for single buildings, and most of them weren't for, this is kind of the largest request we've seen as far as square footage goes. So where they're asking to basically be 3 times over the allowed limit, most of these were like maybe, you know, 20% over or something like that, not 3 times the limit. So just something to keep in mind as this makes this one a little bit different from some of the past requests. And just to clarify that if all of the outbuildings that he's requesting to be rustic structure are left, and if the 2 buildings that he's not deeming rustic structure, they're allowed by right stay, they would exceed the limit by 8,798 square feet. And like I said, normally you would need about 15 acres to support buildings of that size, which is much smaller than the case here. Any questions from me?
Do they have to maintain it and have it look presentable?
Yeah, the Plan Commission resolution for the others that were approved does have some kind of caveat that, like, at least I think yearly or every couple of years, we would have to do an inspection on it, at least from the outside, to make sure that it's looking decent. So I know we've had one where they had to replace some windows because they were like all broken. Or we had one where there were a ton of bar boards that were completely rotten. They had them replace some barn boards. They shouldn't have to do a lot to it if they're decent. I mean, if they're in that bad a shape now, which I don't think these necessarily are from what I've seen in the photos, you know, then it shouldn't be granted at all. But these, I think, there's been some TLC taken to these. But yeah, we would have something in the Plan Commission that would require perpetual maintenance, because if they fall into too much disrepair, then they should just come down.
I love the fact that
Turn it.
another check.
There you go.
Is that on? That we're trying to keep the rural structure. It's nothing greater than driving out to the middle school and seeing the barns and farms on the way going down Crowbar. So I think that's awesome that we're considering doing this.
Adam, are there any restrictions on what they can use the buildings for if they're designated rustic structures?
Not specifically. The one thing that code mentions is it does say that it does not have to be currently or future use for agriculture. That's one thing that's listed in the definition. It says, that whether it whether it's currently or not utilized or not for agricultural practice. So I would say no. It obviously shouldn't be anything related to a use that's not allowed in the ordinance in general, but no, it doesn't.
It's not a current active farm at all, is it?
That would be a question for the owner. Historically, like the photos, the air photos that are included, or some of the aerial photography, those were taken last year, I think, some of these, and there were, I think it was the King family, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, you can come up, Brian, after I'm done. I'm not sure what the future plan is, just because the new lot's so much smaller. I don't know how much land is left for them, but I know in the recent past, it was being used for some farming purposes, at least some of it being leased out.
Where is that located? I didn't
Where's this located?
The address or?
On Parker, it would be kind of halfway between Crowbar and Racine on the west part of Parker, south side of the road. Madison Court is a newer cul-de-sac that was recently installed by Mr. Wren, and this would be just east of that. That's kind of part of this development. One thing I guess also just to be aware of is, so this existing lot, which is kind of, the buildings are kind of clustered together. And then there are 6 other lots that were part of this land division. Each of those 6 new lots will be able to put up their own 2% if they want. So like whether this is approved or not has no impact on what anyone else can do. So everyone else around the area also could have their 2% of outbuilding size depending on whatever their lot size is.
Any other questions for Adam? Is Brian here? Does he want to speak to this?
I'm Brian Wren. I'm the owner. I've been there for 23 years. I bought it from Wayne Salentine for most of you. I'll just, all right, there we go. Most of you probably know who Wayne Salentine is. He was the old mayor and stuff. You got him on the other side of the wall over there. He grew up in that house. I've done everything I can to keep those buildings up right away. I know initially they were concerned about, was I going to keep good track of the buildings and make sure that they're maintained well. And they knew that a person like me, for what I do for a living, that I'm going to make sure that those buildings are up and decent. And I've got 23 years to show that they've only improved and kept them up structurally decent. I've replaced windows, roofs. Electrical was old, all replaced now within the last 15. So decent, strong structure, upright, nothing's leaning, very nostalgic. I mean, obviously it represents our old neighbor, our old mayor here. I don't know what else to really say. If you guys had some questions indirectly, I'm not trying to pitch you on anything. I just want to inform you of what I think and why I think it would be great to see up. And like I said, he grew up in that place from day one, from 0 years old. I mean, 1936, and they worked that farm and stuff, and I tried to do what I can to keep it looking beautiful, like you had mentioned before. So, I don't know, were there any other questions about the farm or?
So now that you've subdivided all this land, I'm assuming that since you've had this property, the buildings are not being used for agriculture?
This one, actually, the main.
But now they aren't quite.
It is actually. They've got cows there right now. Actually, I don't know how you guys could scroll through it, but there's the color picture. I think it's towards the end. Next one. That's from last year. That's Mark King. He's the nephew of Wayne Salentine in the black and white. Ironically, that they did the black and white like that. Mm-hmm. That's 1982. Wayne was like 46 years old there, and I took it in the same exact spot. So you could see the barn, what it looked like then. That's all upright with the silos and such, and then, again, him there being relation and having the cows there. So.
But once all these lots are sold, you're not going to be able to use this for.
I really wasn't planning anything like that. I'm just doing what I can to work with the farmer. And he's building a $1 million. I don't know what you guys have followed up on that, but I haven't even followed it too much. But I do know that he's building a $1 million parlor for milking, and he's going to be taking all the cows that way. So no need at that time. But right now I'm just working with him while he's there, trying to be friendly and, have it being used for that, for current use. I have lumber in one of them, and I got some snowmobiles in the back one, and that's about it. Everything is mine. I don't lease it or anything for any storage or anything like that. That is all my stuff. And then otherwise that the barn, Mark King does rent for me. So, and the silos he does use.
So once this building's not going to be used for agricultural purposes or milking purposes, what do you plan on doing with them?
Just my stuff or whatever. I mean, just to keep it upright, I think it's basically all attached to, I would call it kind of in the shape of a J if you look at the overhead on it. That one building, they're all attached in that one. Yeah, I guess you can see it in that too. The main large building, and it goes to the south and has that little jut out with that other building is attached there. And then the silos are right there. And they got the other one that's about 6 feet to the front towards the road. That little, it's like 600 some square feet. 656, I think it is, or 636.
Anybody else have any questions? So what we would be doing if this were approved is basically moving it to Planning Commission for a public hearing and Planning Commission approval. Correct, Adam?
It would go either way, because, you know, you're providing a recommendation. So positive or negative, it still goes. It just goes with all the discussion in the minutes for the planning
Okay.
commission to figure into the bigger discussion.
Anyone wish to make a motion regarding this?
I'll move to recommend it to the planning commission.
I'll second.
Or,
Okay. It's been moved for approval. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All those opposed? I'm opposed. I'm a nay. Okay, it would move to Planning Commission in a public hearing. Okay, next item is updates on the parks capital projects for 2023. Scott?
Hi, how's everyone going tonight? Saw some of you today. The first one we're going to talk about, dog park at Moreland Park. Thank you for everyone who came there. Just to let you know, Mrs. Tews, a generous Muskego resident, provided a large donation for that project to happen. It is located, it'll be our first one in the city of Muskego. It's always one of our top requests that we always get. It is located in Moreland Park, just south of the skate park there. Tomorrow, from my understanding, the contractor is going to start putting the fencing in for it. And we're shooting for Monday, June 5th at 4 p.m. for ribbon cutting, similar to what the event was today. So it's going to both have a small dog side and a large dog side. There'll be some benches, there'll be some picnic tables in there, there'll be some dog agility equipment as well. Also, we have the water line already in to provide a water service both for the dogs and for humans. So just to let everyone know. Any questions on that one? It's going to be a pretty big one. We at least saw probably 5 to 10 dogs there already today, and it was cold weather. So I'm assuming if on June, if it's warmer, we're going to have a pretty good crowd.
I'll try and be on time for the ribbon cutting.
Okay. Moving to the next one, Veterans Memorial Park, full replacement of playground. So this is going to be our next huge thing. So this playground is going to look quite different than what it's out there. It's going to be bigger, taller. It's going to have rubber matting instead of wood chips. The plan is to install in the fall of 2023. We are going to do our first community playground build. So get ready. We're going to have volunteers. We're going to have 2 project managers from the company to help install it. And then we are going to look for volunteers We're looking for food for the workers itself, et cetera. It's done in a lot of communities, but this will be our very first one. Other people, for example, American Legion, they're raising funds to provide some additional features like some benches and some shading out there. But it's going to be a really cool, I think, well-received project. It's our most used playground, and it's going to look definitely significantly different. So, any questions on that? Okay. The last one, what I want to kind of give you, and if Wendy can put it up. So, why I wanted to bring this up is as we come, and I know it doesn't seem we're here yet, but we are already here yet. I already have my first planning internally at the end of April for talking about capital projects for next year and then for our next 5 years out. Why I want to bring this to your attention is if you look at 2024, there's a couple of big items that we have there. Freedom Square, about $120,000 to redo the tennis court out there. You have idle aisle concrete boat ramps. You're about 150. Potential future trail just to the design, about 83,000 from Martin Drive from Landon to Oak, and then Moreland Park Pavilion with bathrooms, water, and sewer hookup. Our total is about close to $700,000. Last year we only spent about $500,000. With the way that trending for budgets and everything, I don't see us being probably getting all that whole entire list for next year. So what I'm looking from you guys is if you have some priorities, please let me know. I see that we might get in the range of $500,000 passed by the Common Council, but I'm more looking from you guys for looking at the list, not even for next year, but the next 3, and then seeing what for years 25, 26, 27, and what you want in 28. But I really don't see all of us seeing us get everything for next year, just the way that budgets are trending. And we're typically only about $500,000 that we spend each year. So let me know what you guys hear from the public, what is the most interest to them, what you think they would like, and what you guys hear. Any questions on that? And you can drop an email, you can drop me a phone, or stop into my office at any time. Yep, Toby?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so the plan for Freedom Square is what, basically resurfacing that?
That's full rebuild.
Full rebuild?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to be. The cracks are too big.
Yeah,
It's getting to the point where it's unsafe.
that's why I was kind of
Yep,
asking.
yep.
Okay.
And again, I'm going to let you know too, those prices are probably a year old.
Yeah.
So that means I'm guessing that it's going to be higher. So, but I just want to kind of let you know, these are the things that are kind of like set to do in 2024 or ask the Common Council for, but I just don't see all of us getting them. So I wanted to kind of let you guys know and think about it. Also think about, what you guys see for the next couple of years or what you know. Any questions for me? And again, come and talk to us, send me emails, phone call, or just stop into my office.
Any questions for Scott right now? Okay.
Thanks again for everyone who came out, and looking forward to seeing you on June 5th for the ribbon cutting for the dog park.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, director's reports. Recreation manager. Tammy, you want to review this a little bit?
Sure. So we're gearing up for a crazy busy summer as usual. We are starting to see that we're returning to post-COVID numbers. Our playground at Old Town Hall, our all-day playground, is already full, and we only have 30 spots left at our Veterans Park site. And we are capping those at 90 kids. So we already have a 90 at the Old Town Hall and 59 at Vets. So, and that's without the book going to all homes. We just sent out a flyer home to the school district kids. So I expect them to be full on that first day of registration. We're working on hiring staff for Idle Isle. We'll have the snack shack open again. In the fall of last year, we ordered some additional equipment that we'll be able to rent out now. So on top of the kayaks and stand-up paddle boards, we have the large Jenga games and some of the Connect 4. So people who are having events there can also rent those and use them as part of their events. We are going to be hiring a ranger that will work at Idle Isle to help with some of our congestion and issues with the launching. And then looking for people to work with our playground and our sports programs that we have going on. We're just busy right now. Like the minute the grass turned green, soccer was out, rugby was out, baseball was out. We have 17 tournaments planned for Park Arthur. We had our first one this weekend. They played Friday night, all day Saturday, except for the lightning. They went under the shelter for about 20 minutes. Then they were back out and they called their games at 2:00 yesterday. So they played in the rain all the way till that point. So we are booked solid now through the end of June. Then we're off July and August. And then we have all of September and October booked with tournaments. That is becoming a full-time job alone, just dealing with the tournaments. There's a lot that goes into that. And then also working on the playground at Vets Park that Scott was talking about. Just that is a big project that we're undertaking. We will have conceptual drawings of everything sometime in the next 2 weeks, so we'll be able to start promoting and trying to get a lot of people to come out and help us. We're looking at needing probably 50 people on that day just to help put together all the pieces on the ground, and the crew will help get everything uprighted. But we've ordered all the pieces, we've selected all the colors. Everything's in a patriotic theme, so the colors are red, white, and blue. The rubber matting is gray, red, and blue, so we're really staying with the veterans theme there.
So the playground, I meant to ask you this before. It's a similar type of structure to what we've got now as far as the assembly of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like bolting things together and.
It'll be putting all the handhelds on the brackets and everything. The
Okay.
company will have to do the major install just because of the size of the big piece. It's a couple stories tall. So they'll be doing all of that and setting all the footings. It'll be everybody working on the ground to get all of the sections put together, unpackaged, garbage
Okay.
thrown away, and then just bringing it to them as they're installing it. So many hands make light work, I believe the saying is. So they can get it done in a weekend after they pour the footings and everything, as compared to the 3 or 4 guys doing it in a week. So we will be removing it after Labor Day, the existing piece, and getting the site prepped, and then the work will happen. And once the rubber is poured, like a week after we install it, it'll be open for the public by the end of September, as long as we don't have bad weather.
Yeah. I have a
Anything else?
question about pickleball.
Oh,
With
no.
the growth of pickleball, is there still demand for more courts?
Come on up, Adam.
Or is
Actually,
it,
I don't
or
touch
have we met the
pickleball.
demand for the most part?
Yeah. Yeah. So Adam fortunately takes all of the pickleball stuff. I deal with the other stuff. Adam has become our pickleball aficionado.
He's the pickleball
Yes.
guru.
So yeah, we do need more courts. We need to look at the courts we have and whether we can mark them. I have a concern if we keep turning everything into pickleball. We do have a tennis community.
Yep.
And they're not going to have time because this is a large group that will take over. So whether it's something we work with the school district on, maybe doing a few of their courts since they have so many, or we
Dual
look at.
mark 'em or something
Yeah,
like that.
so that you
Yeah.
can do multiple. But yeah, we definitely need more courts. We have 225 people signed up for the summer outdoor session right
Really?
now.
Okay.
Yeah. Not everybody comes at the same time because they're
Right,
traveling,
right.
but yeah. So it has not diminished, just continues to grow. So,
That's what I'm hearing.
yep.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Tammy? Tom, Conservation Coordinators Report.
Well, I really was just going to touch on some of the things that I put in the memo. I'm always battling invasive species, and this winter was no different with a lot of the shrubs. So invasive buckthorn, honeysuckle, multiflora rose, stuff like that. Did some work right out here behind the old settlement center. So the woods, you can see through them. You can see some of the barns and buildings that were obscured by some of those shrubs earlier. And if you've been to Engle Conservation Area, there's an area there of young woods that had a lot of green ash, and of course ash trees have been dying from emerald ash borer. and it was just a mess. A lot of invasive shrubs there, in addition to these ash trees, were hard to get at. So a contractor went in there and removed a lot of that, used a grappling device on a skid loader and made big piles of them. We burned a lot of it. A lot of it's there for firewood. So we'll be able to restore that area. And that's an area where next week, we're having the high school volunteer day. And they're going to be out there planting some seedling trees. I have a bunch of white oak seedlings. In fact, I was given extra white oak seedlings by the DNR. I have 150 of them. So if anybody's interested in those, got some other species too, shagbark hickory and swamp white oak as well, and bur oak. So burn season, it's been crazy with the weather we've had, was like up and down, and managed to get a few burns in. Of course, last week we're red flagged for 2 days. There's no burning at all, which was a smart thing. The results are usually really good after burning. And I don't know if you understand burning is we're not just doing it because we're, pyromania. It's fun burning, but the land it's fire dependent plant communities that just need fire to be healthy. And especially oak systems and prairies. So we have prairie reconstructions, and those need to be burned on a regular basis. And oak woodlands, oak savanna, and even oak forests have some periodicity of fire that's required to actually keep competing other trees down. Oaks require sunlight, and Bill can attest to this, that they need more sunlight. If they get shaded out by a maple, they don't do so well. So that periodic fire kind of opens things up for them, allows them to sustain themselves. I think that's it. What else did any bullet point in the memo that I had? I can't read that from here. But any questions about anything that's going on? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's going to be thank you. So that's a new program. Kind of excited about it because we were going to do like citizen science monitoring. Waukesha County does a lot of this, but we'll put out traps like in the stream at Batesher. There's snake boards. You put boards out in the fields, and you go back and you look underneath them to find the snakes because they take refuge under there. We're going to try to get a bird person to go out and set up a mist net so we can trap some birds and ban some birds. Look at birds. So we think it might be popular to get people engaged in the kind of wildlife that we're attracting to the conservation areas.
Where is this offered?
Through the recreation guide. Oh, where? Like?
Yeah, I mean, where can you find this, like online?
It's going to be in the new in the summer guide that's coming out.
This week. Should be in your mailboxes by the weekend.
And also touch on, we're going to have a page there about recreation trails and the use of recreation trails, some of the things that are allowed, safe pedestrian travel in the cities where we don't have recreation trails, some advice on, high visibility clothing and things like that. So there's a lot of people out walking, which is great. We see a lot of people on our trails. So just the safe use of those.
Also, you mentioned the osprey, you have one that you know of in the past. How many have there been?
There's a camera on one nest. They have 3 eggs already. They're incubating them. Oh. The first egg was laid on Easter, so it's an Easter egg. So then it's like every 1 to 2 days after they'll lay another egg. And when they have their full clutch, which is 3, they start incubating. So they're sitting, the video that came in today, you can see there's snow on the back of the female as she's sitting on the eggs. And they came back from Central America for this.
Yeah.
What the heck? It's much nicer down there.
So how many have you had in the past, though? How many nests?
So there were 2 active nests each of the last 3 years. So I have not been out on the lake recently. I would anticipate that other nest is is occupied right now. I don't know if they have eggs. Last year, they were much later in laying their eggs, but they're here. I'm sure it's likely they're on that nest.
The bald eagle here again?
The eagles are in a tree off a nature court on private land. They're close to the edge of the lake. I would anticipate they have to have young already. They're almost not fledged yet, but they've got to be young that would be observable, sitting up in the nest.
Okay,
Any other questions?
any questions for Tom?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any communications or miscellaneous business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.